you have new or slightly used prom dresses in good condition? Or do you know someone who wants to give away a prom dress? Starting January 2nd, the Ocean County Library invites you to donate your dresses during the 17th annual prom dress collection. Donated dresses will be collected at all of the Ocean County Library branches until February 28th and will be available for free for students in 8th through 12th grade starting in March at our prom dress giveaways. Before you donate, please ensure that your dresses meet the following criteria: long or short styles from the last 5 years, gently used and clean dresses ready for attending prom. Please don't donate dresses with rips, tears, or stains. And please don't donate accessories like shoes or purses. For details, check out our website at theoceancountylibrary.org, visit your local branch, or call us at 732-349-6200. We thank you in advance for your donation.
Hello, and welcome to Waves of YA, a podcast focused on young adult literacy, brought to you by the Ocean County Library's Teen Literacy Work Group.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to our newest episode of Waves of YA. Today, we have a very special guest for you. Why don't you introduce yourself, special guest?
Hello, my name is Jamison Shea. I'm the author of a YA dark fantasy horror called I Feed Her to the Beast, and the Beast is Me.
Awesome. We are so happy to have Jamison on the show today. My name is Summer, and I am the librarian at the Long Beach Island Library.
And I am Chris, and I am the Island Heights branch manager.
Awesome. So let's jump right into it. As Jamison said, their very first book, it was your debut novel, correct?
Yes. So I had written other things before, but I Feed Her to the Beast was the first one that's ready for other people to read and go to print.
Awesome. And that came out in August of 2023. Mm-hmm. And we're going to be talking to Jamison about that book, as well as the sequel, which is coming out, if I'm correct on this, November 12th of this year.
Yep, that's correct.
Awesome. Chris and I have both read I Feed Her to the Beast, which is why we were very excited about this. And we're very excited to talk to you about your upcoming book. Chris, would you like to ask the first question?
Okay. Were you inspired by either version of the movie Suspiria when you were writing I Feed Her to the Beast and the Beast is Me?
A little bit. So I think that was kind of like the origin point where I had watched the remake and I was really annoyed because it ends with, I forgot her name. It ends with her being possessed, but it's not her power and she doesn't want to be possessed. And so she has all of this power that can fold a person like an origami thing. And then she's miserable and I don't understand. And so I wanted to write a story where a main character, a woman, a girl, gets power and is possessed and actually likes the power and likes doing bad things. I didn't intend for it to go back to ballet. It just so happened that the ballet has a lot of body horror baked in. There are so many gross body things about ballet that I didn't have to make up much.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of both the original Suspiria and the new one, but it's so cool hearing your interpretation of the ending. I never really thought about it that way.
Yeah.
When I was reading the book, I was
amazing. So.
Yeah, for real. And I was like, wow, ballet and horror. I love it. I also recently watched the horror movie Abigail, which is about a little vampire girl ballerina. And again, horror, ballet, they go hand in hand in some ways. Yeah. Our next question is, what inspired your idea for this story? You said Suspiria was part of it, but was there a greater inspiration?
Yeah, I was just inspired by just art and artists. And there's always this idea that you have to suffer for your art. And I wanted to question if that's true and how much of that is true. When I was a teenager, I used to be really into classical music and orchestra. It was my whole personality was orchestra. I played the flute and I wanted to be first chair. And so I worked really, really, really hard to practice to be first chair, and like I was going up against girls who had private lessons and like really expensive flutes, and I was on a rental and had only done like public lessons, like group things. And so I was really trying my hardest. I would spend summers practicing so that I would be ready. And then my mom scheduled me to get my wisdom teeth out like right before a playing. And so I popped the stitches so that I could put my mouth into position to play.
Wow.
And so I did get first chair, but then my solo was given to second place. And so it wasn't even worth it in the end. But
Oh, wow.
I wanted to take that energy from high school me and explore it in a more extreme situation.
I really like how much rage is in the book and how much rage Laurence feels, which, side note, very funny side note, my manager at the library I work at, her name is Laurence. She was born in Paris and she studied ballet. And I was like, Laurence, is this book about you? It was just a very funny coincidence. I like how there's so much rage in the book, especially when it comes to what you brought up briefly about going up against people who had a lot more opportunities and privilege than yourself at the time. And Laurence going through the systemic racism and classism of the ballet world in Paris in the book. I think that was really interesting to learn about because I didn't really know anything about the inner workings of the ballet world. And it was very cool to see that.
I also like loved how angry she was. I was like, she absolutely should be that angry. And in my notes when we were first talking about it during our horror podcast, I put in like, I support women's wrongs. Like, yes, make that deal. Like, get ahead because clearly playing fair isn't working. So stop playing fair.
Yeah.
What's her best friend's name again? Her best friend
Coralie.
in the book? Coralie is so mad at Coralie the whole time. I was just like unkind things about Coralie in my head reading it.
How did you choose the title, and did the publisher push back about the length because it is a long title?
They did not. So I actually did not pick my title. It was I did a author mentorship program called Pitch Wars. It doesn't exist anymore. And right before the showcase at the very end of it, my mentor sent me a message and she's like, I hate your title. It was something else. I don't remember what it was, but she hated it. And I'm like, yeah, it's not very good. And so she threw out a bunch of them. And one of them was, I feed her to the beast and the beast is me. And I'm like, that sounds amazing. It sounds familiar, but I don't know why. And then I think that day I had gone back to editing the end of the book and I saw that like, oh, I wrote that. That's why it sounds familiar because I wrote that. That was me. So I gave her all of this credit for the title because I completely forgot about it. But yeah, so she picked it. We thought it was really like attention grabbing. And yeah, my publisher was like, we love it. So when it came to the sequel, I had to find a title that was equally as long.
Yeah, it's I am the dark that answers when you call, right?
Correct.
I love it.
Yeah.
I think I discovered the book because I was looking for specifically, I really love horror books with monsters in them, like a creature feature, I call it. And I was having trouble finding one, and I was looking, and that came up on a list of monster horror books. And the title immediately, I was just like, ooh, like I've never seen a title like that. And I think titles follow trends. Like you see a lot of blank and blank.
Yeah.
Books, which is great. But I was really eye-catching. It definitely drew me in. And then Chris said she had read it. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have to read it too.
Yeah. I love the title, but sometimes having to say it repeatedly is quite, gets exhausting.
I'm sure. Do you ever abbreviate it? Like, what would it be? Like IFHTEB?
I tried it very early into my book deal and I got sick of typing out that many letters. And so now I just shorten it to I feed her to the beast or just beast to make it easy. Yeah.
I have a question as to whether the upcoming sequel will be set in Prague, because at the end of the first book, we get a little sneak peek of them being in Prague. And I'm very interested to see if we're going to see, because we've got to see so much of Paris in I Feed Her to the Beast, and I'm interested in if we're going to see anything of Prague.
I considered it when I was kind of plotting out the story. I did consider it, but Lore's whole life her heart, her world is Paris. And so I thought instead I would explore different parts of Paris, since in book one, she is very like, it's just the ballet and home and nowhere else. And so I wanted to play with other parts of Paris that maybe not as glamorous parts of Paris that we don't see as much. And then her trying to find her new place in the city. You know, she fights so hard to stay in Paris in the ballet, and then I just send her somewhere else. So
Yeah, I feel
no.
like she needed like a vacation from a
Yeah.
lot happened.
Yeah.
And I don't know anything about any parts of Paris. Can you tell us like what parts she's going to be in?
Yeah, so she goes around a little bit more. We see some of Palais de Justice. So, like, there's a giant fortress in the middle of Paris that has some historical significance from when the city was first founded, and it gets conquered. And then we also see more of Elysium and that world to learn more about the deals and the gods that they're playing with without much knowledge.
Oh, I'm excited to see more about Elysium and like the gods, especially because we know about the other river and like Coralie had a deal, which like finding out like my first instinct was not teeth. And I was like, oh, and I'm like grave robbing, try to like guess what it would be. Because I'm like, okay, so like probably bone. And I had like everything but teeth. And I was just like, I'm like, you can sacrifice like I'm like, she can't sacrifice a toe, she does ballet, but like I don't know, maybe part of like a fingertip. And I was like, teeth was worse. So much worse.
Yeah. Teeth is your hard no.
Oh, I didn't like it. I just immediately got upset. I was like,
forget that teeth are bone.
I did too.
Yeah, that was, I'm sorry. I don't have any excuses for that. It just seemed like a good idea.
No,
I wasn't skeeved out by the teeth.
But she can like get implants. So I was like, why are you so mad, girl? Like, get some implants.
Coralie is spoiled. Yeah, she was so mean. I was so mad at Coralie. I was like, I have no sympathy for you, Coralie. I'm sorry.
I read it twice, and like the second time knowing it was coming, I was just like inherently mad at her from the get-go of like, you're so much worse now, like knowing where this goes. Like you weren't good to begin with, but like now I'm just immediately like, nope, don't feel bad for you.
Yeah, I like all the subtle digs. Like even when Laurence is still considers her a friend, she'll be like, oh, she did her ballet, she does a turn, it wasn't good.
Yeah.
Why is she so bad?
But like I get like that attitude of like you're both competing for something, and like even if they're your friend, like you're competing for the same thing. And so like when you're the expert, like both like on that level of like we have had the same training, like why aren't you that good? Like why aren't you that better? So like especially because like I've played sports my whole life, so I'm still like I'm like, yeah, no, I've had that attitude a couple times where I'm like, that's not good. That's not how you do that.
Well, I assume it's almost like offensive because Coralie's been given every opportunity. She has so much money, she has privilege, she has status, she has the legacy of her mom, and it's almost offensive that she's not good. And Laurence knows she's better, but she's being cast aside because of her background and her skin color, and I would be offended too.
Yeah.
Let Coralie be better.
But I will say, as a little bit of a teaser, because I did not realize how many like Coralie, not apologists, but fans that she had. I talked to a lot of people who think she's awful and they love Coralie anyway, which I respect. And so there is a little bit more to Coralie's backstory, a little bit more of Coralie. She's still dead. She's dead. But a little bit more of her. Something with her and Lore and their relationship in the sequel as well.
Ooh, it's exciting.
Your bio lists that you were a choreographer and a dancer. Did you want to be part of the Paris Ballet when you were younger or still do?
No, not at all. I wanted to be a ballerina when I was younger, but my mom did not want me to do ballet. It's not, I don't know. She didn't really perceive it as something that like Black people do. Like Black people don't do ballet. We do jazz or we do tap dance or other kinds of more cultural, I guess, for us. But ballet was not part of our world, I guess. So I wanted to do ballet, but she wouldn't put me in ballet lessons. But I later got into like hip hop dancing. I did a little bit of K-pop, some modern, those kinds of styles of dance, which I started to do choreography for. And so I wanted to channel that kind of fun and experience of performing and like doing something physical in performing. But I had recently at that point watched a documentary about Misty Copeland and her life and her experience becoming a principal at American Ballet Theater. And so that really is what carried me in the ballet direction.
Cool. You see, because you seem to, the book seems to like really delve into the world and the political nature of it. And where did you get that research from?
A lot of interviews and documentaries with ballerinas. I followed like half of the dancers at American Ballet Theater on Instagram because a lot of them just post their day-to-day lives. They record videos of them like fooling around backstage or like breaking in their shoes. A lot of them just record videos of them breaking in their shoes. And so I started to learn a lot of the techniques that they use, the little tricks of like the dental floss, for example, those kinds of things from watching just like the daily lives of ballerinas. And then I also learned that there is a international day of ballet where several ballet companies around the world just live stream their morning classes. So there's hours of live footage on YouTube of just morning practice with professional ballerinas, which was helpful. Yeah.
That's really cool. I always find that fascinating too, the sort of like daily vlogs of people who are live in this whole different world.
Yeah.
I was curious. So in A Theater to the Beast, Laurence, she has her outer demons of the river and Artranon and all the stuff that's happening, the mystery of the murders, but she also has her inner demons of, as we talked about, racism and classism in the ballet world, her getting passed over for parts that she's more qualified for than some other dancers. And that's an arc she goes through throughout the book. I was wondering what Laurence is going to learn from this new story, what she will be learning about herself or about others.
Yeah. I would say that book one was really trying to explore how far she would go to be loved and how much of herself she was willing to sacrifice for acceptance and this idea of love as a prima ballerina. And then in book two, the ballet is gone, and that was her whole identity. And so it more explores how do you rebuild yourself and find yourself and figure out who you are when that one thing that you were good at and that you made your whole life is gone. I had inspired it by my going away to college for the first time. So in high school, I was like straight A student. I was good at everything. I was like at the top of my world. And then I went away to college and I didn't have my best friends around me. And I was in a new city, in a new state, and I sucked at everything. And so that drop of like, now you're in completely unfamiliar territory and you have to figure out who you are all over again. I think that was the bulk. That's really the main story, is trying to define herself while she's still possessed, because Acheron's still there.
It seems almost like a friendly possession, though. I felt it almost like they were coexisting, but I could have read that wrong. I was like, it's a friend. He's a friendly demon or eldritch god possessing her.
You get to question it in book two. You get to wonder if they're really friends and if it's just altruism for Acheron or something else.
I think we're just learning more about me, that I would be susceptible to being possessed, I guess. I need to be careful.
I would too.
I'm wondering, like, is there going to be like kind of like that Venom thing where like, because like we see her interacting a little bit through the shadow responses, but are we going to start getting like the Venom voice?
Yes. So I had never seen Venom until after I had written the first draft, and my editor kept making jokes about Venom in the comments, and I didn't understand what she was saying. So I went to watch the movie in between rounds. Because she would post GIFs and like images of Eddie arguing with Venom, and I'm like, I don't get this. So I had to go do some research, and then after that I did play up a little bit more of their dialogue so that it really does feel like she's arguing with her inner demons.
Oh, that's gonna be so exciting. Like, I
That's
love
really
Venom, and I can't wait for the third movie to come out, so I'm like, oh, I love
Yeah.
any time when they start
I'm
arguing with, like,
invested
the thing
now.
possessing them.
I've
Yeah.
only seen the first Venom, but I liked it a lot. Have you seen that
Yeah.
meme that's like, what would you like for lunch? And Venom is like, the souls of the innocent. And then he's like, I'll have a bagel.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was trying to channel that in the second book, so it's a little bit more humorous. I mean, it's still dark because she's in a dark place, but there's some levity in their exchanges.
That's awesome. And I feel like I know this, but I forgotten. Is this going to be the final book in this world, or is it going to be? Okay, it's a duology.
Yes, it's a duology. So Laura's story ends with this book.
Yeah, I love a duology. I feel like duologies just have a nice symmetry to them. Like I Hunt the Flame.
Oh yeah,
by
Hunt the Flame.
the duology.
Hudson Faisal. Yes.
Yes, and I need to read her new book, Tempest of Tea. I'm so excited to read it. I'm like saving it for a rainy day, and I don't know why I'm doing that.
I get you. Yeah, I considered originally it was supposed to be a standalone, but then I had some kind of ideas to like round it out. It was just going to be like a very open-ended ending, and then I figured that we should give it a full closure moment with the sequel, and so yeah, I'm hoping people like it. I like it.
Very exciting. I like the cover. She's like screaming.
Yeah, she gets angrier. If it was,
It's like
if
the
you
first-
didn't know it was
Good,
possible,
yeah.
yes.
Yeah, the first one, like, she looks like she's drowning, and like throughout it felt like she was drowning in like the ballet and like all of, like the drama and like the politics of it, and then like the screaming, like, ooh, we are no longer drowning, we are clawing out of the drowning and like angry about it.
Yeah, I think the cover really does fit the story and like her arc.
Drowning in blood. I think I saw it on a list of books that was like, the list was called like books with blood on the cover. I was like, interesting way to sort your books.
Are you looking for a blast from the past? Don't forget to tune into Wheeler Talk, the history of Ocean County, a podcast brought to you by me, the local history librarian. Episodes of Wheeler Talk are released monthly right here on OCL Soundwaves. Learn about the rich history of Ocean County with topics such as shipwrecks, historic storms, Ocean County's role in the Revolutionary War, tales of local hauntings, and much, much more.
So Chris talked about how the teeth thing really skeeved her out. I was wondering, is there anything in books or movies and horror that scares the pants off of you? Or like grosses you out on a visceral level?
Grosses me out. Not really. In terms of gore or body horror or things that gross me out, not really. I grew up watching horror movies since I was really young. So like I love it. The grosser, the better. I even have, you can't see it, it's that little red thing there, but in the movie Evil Dead Rise, there's a moment with a cheese grater. And when I saw it for the first time, I saw the cheese grater and I'm like, please pick it up and use it. And so when they did, I actually screamed in the theater because it was just so gratifying.
Awesome.
So I don't get grossed out by things, but in terms of things that scare me, aliens, alien abductions, alien movies, those are to me, I don't know. I had watched Signs when I was younger, and now just alien abduction movies terrify me.
So what about Alien with Sigourney Weaver? Just aliens.
Yeah, that sounds awful. That one I think really does get my heart pumping because she is strapped in the middle of nowhere in space with something that wants to possess her body, basically. It's awful. In a good way.
Isn't the movie Nope about aliens?
Yes.
I'm not sure.
Yes.
Okay. So I didn't grow up watching horror movies. I was always what I call a Halloweenie. I was always very easily scared. Like I couldn't read Goosebumps, but I always loved spooky stuff like vampires and everything. And now that I'm an adult, I like can watch the stuff that used to scare me. But the only movies that have like super scared me recently are Us by Jordan Peele, like the doppelganger thing. I was walking to my bathroom at night and I was like, I'm going to see myself in the corner staring at me. And recently I watched the original Conjuring and that really scared me because that one has some good jump scares in it.
Yeah, The Conjuring has the best jump scares. I'm with you there.
Chris, do you want to ask the next one? I feel like I co-opted the questions.
Are there any future writing projects that you can share with us?
Yeah, so after I Am the Dark, I just finished editing my next book, which will be a standalone called Roar of the Lambs, and it is kind of like Donnie Darko or like a Final Destination kind of story where there's a psychic who sees herself dying and then a subsequent apocalypse. And so it's like her trying to prevent her death in like an apocalypse. But I thought it would be fun to make her a compulsive liar. Like she never tells the truth. And so she is psychic and her visions are accurate, but no one believes her because she never tells the truth. I think it's a riot. It's fun for me.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. I really liked Donnie Darko. Like, I think I was like early high school when it came out. So like me and all my friends were like super into like Donnie Darko. It was like our version of like The Crow of like we're all really way too into this, especially because like Donnie Darko had that website where you could like find clues on the website too. So like now I'm excited because I was like, what is like the current Donnie Darko of like the weird like edgy thing?
I am in love with Lisa Frankenstein.
Yeah,
just
maybe
came
Lisa
out.
Frankenstein.
That's like, because it's camp. I only seen Donnie Darko peripherally because my younger sibling got really into it when I was still living at home as a teenager. So I would just like see clips of it going on. But yeah, I don't think I was probably a baby when Donnie Darko came out.
Yeah, I discovered it in high school, could never go back. Changed me fundamentally.
Yeah, it seems like it's similar to what's that book series called John Dies at the End?
Yes.
A similar, like, kind of messes with your head type of vibes.
It does. It's very trippy.
I also had an additional question I wanted to ask. I wanted to know, Jamison, what you are reading right now, or if you have any recommendations for our listeners, YA books or horror books that either inspire you or that you are just loving right now.
Yeah, so I'm currently reading, it's an older book. I think it came out in 2010, 2011, called Slice of Cherry by Dia Reeves. And it is about a pair of sisters in Texas who go on a serial killing spree. It's so unhinged. I'm not done with it yet, but just chapter 1 was unhinged, and it just gets weirder and weirder. And it's very gory, it's very violent, but the relationship of the sisters is the core part of the story, even as they are magical serial killer twins in Texas. Yeah.
You just made my day. I read that when I was, I don't know, probably like 13, 14 years old. And like, I'd never heard anyone else talk about that book in my life.
I think they're doing a reissue of it. I got asked to blurb it. So the publisher asked me to blurb it. I think they're reissuing it. And I had never heard of it, but yeah, I am loving it so much right now.
Yeah, it is so like weird girl fiction. It's and she has another book I think called Bleeding Violet, which I never read, and I want to. It's like on my TBR. And again, I said I was a Halloweenie, but for books it was different. Like I could read scary books and I was fine. It was movies I couldn't watch. But I'm so excited because I've never heard anyone else talk about that book.
That book is absolutely trippy. Another book that I love, it's called My Heart is a Chainsaw by Stephen Graham Jones. And that one is about a teenage girl who is obsessed with horror movies. And that is kind of how she connects with people. She tries to make a relationship by telling you horror movie facts. And then she thinks that her own kind of horror movie situation is happening in her hometown, and she tries really hard to prepare this new girl in school that she thinks is the final girl. So they team up together to survive this horror movie situation in their small town. Very good.
It's on my TBR. I want to read that book.
A horror movie, horror book has never made me cry the way My Heart is a Chainsaw did. It is so full of heart. I love it.
That's so awesome. Are there any more, or is that your top 2 right now?
I think that's my top 2. You know what? I'll add a third.
That's
The Spirit Bears Its Teeth by Andrew Joseph White. So The Spirit Bears Its Teeth is about a trans boy who wants to be a surgeon in Victorian London type era. He wants to be a surgeon, but obviously this is a society where trans people don't exist. So he gets sent to a kind of like an asylum that is supposed to convert him into a cis girl. And as he's resisting this, he kind of teams up with the girls at this asylum to fight back. Also amazing. So well written, so full of heart. So, yeah.
That's awesome. Is that by the same person who wrote
Hell
Follows With Us?
Yes.
Yeah, you really liked Hell Follows With Us, didn't you, Chris?
It was so good. And like, I mean, some of the symbolism was like sledgehammery, but I was like, don't care. Like, so good. And like the detail and like the immersion and like body horror, like, and again, the pulling out teeth where I'm always like, just panic. It's because I have like recurring nightmares about my teeth falling out. So I just immediately, I'm like, nope, can't handle the teeth stuff. But like,
in that case, I have another recommendation related to teeth falling out. I'm sorry.
Go for it.
This one is a novella by Keelan Patrick Burke. It's called Sour Candy. It is kind of like a psychological, demonic kind of horror where this guy goes into Walmart because he just wants some candy or something, and he sees this kid by himself. And the kid is like, I don't know where my mom is. Can you help me? And then the kid starts to twist reality. And so it starts with just like a good Samaritan trying to help a lost child. But then the child somehow becomes his child and it takes him home. And then everyone around him is like, yeah, that's your son, of course. And then the child is holding him hostage and won't let him eat anything but sour candy. And his teeth start to fall out. And he is like losing his mind. And we as readers know that that's not his kid because we've been with him this whole time. But he starts to be manipulated and like losing his mind.
That's crazy. Oh my gosh. If I'm actually currently reading a book, it's not technically YA, but I think that it would be fine. Like a transitionary book, I call it. Like it could be read by either adult or teenager. It's called Someone You Can Build a Nest In.
I've heard of it.
Yeah, it's this creature, and her name is Shishishen, and she's this shape-shifting monster who lives. It's like a fantasy world. It's like an undisclosed time period fantasy world, and she's this shape-shifting monster. She can consume people, but also objects, and sort of build a body out of them. And there's all these legends about her kind in this area, and they call her a worm, like WYRM, like the worm of Underlook, and she meets this girl named Homily, and she is like, first she's like, should I eat her? And then she's like, but I kind of like her, like maybe I should eat her, but also maybe I shouldn't. And then she's like, maybe I should actually like build a family with her and like lay my eggs in her. And but then she finds out Homily is from a family of monster hunters that are trying to find her, but she's disguised herself as a person. She can look like a person, but she also is constantly like, she has a bear trap hidden in her chest that she can like spring at people. She can like take in sticks and like weapons and kind of just hide them inside her flesh. She has a pet bear named Blueberry. It's just very good so far. I wouldn't call it scary, but there's definitely a lot of gore in it. It's more like a very gory romance. Also, it's not explicitly said at this point, but it also has asexual representation in it as well, which I think is cool. So that's my body horror recommendation at the moment.
That one was so good. Like I read it over the summer, and it was like, oh, the teeth is like less upsetting when it's like living in a thing of Jello, because nothing's attached to anything, but like still, like
sometimes
there's just stuff floating around in there.
Yeah, she's just a puddle of stuff, and then she can like make herself into whatever she wants.
Yeah, and the descriptions for like what she's using to like create a human shape was so cool. And like you're like, oh yeah, that does make sense for like your rib cage.
I am bumping that up to my TBR.
Yeah, I think at one point they're like, oh, we must capture the beast's heart, and she's overhearing it, and she's like, I don't have a heart. I don't have organs. What are you talking about? All right. Well, Jamison, was there anything you'd like to say regarding your upcoming book release or anything else? Anything that pops into your head?
My head is empty. No.
I can relate.
I don't know. If you like horrible, horrible girls doing horrible things, Feeder to the Beast and I Am the Dark will be out in the world soon. And then also, Roar of the Lambs, as yet another girl making bad choices for fun reasons.
We love to see it. Once again, this has been Jamison Shea visiting us via the internet at the Ocean County Library. Their newest book, I Am the Dark, That Answers When You Call, will be out November 12th. Buy it, but also come and get it from the library. We will definitely have copies of it.
Yes, I love libraries.
All the libraries. But that is all for now, and we hope to see you soon. Bye!
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 Thanks for joining us today. Be sure to check out the Ocean County Library's website for more podcasts and events. All titles mentioned in today's episode can be found through the Ocean County Library, free with your library card. Until next time, happy reading.
Hello, adventurers. If you enjoy this content, please take a look at the Ocean County Library's new podcast called Forge Your Imagination, a guide to immersive world building. This new podcast is dedicated to helping creative individuals design their own expertly crafted worlds for books, games, Dungeons & Dragons, and more. Starting January 2025, tune in on the first Wednesday morning of every month to learn more. Thanks for listening, and safe travels, adventurers.